Hamza, the burden of necessary evil. What is the cost of choosing the greater good? What if Arjun and Hamza had just quit? The bridge versus the battlefield, a tale of two broken heroes. Namaskar. Recently, a movie, Dhurandhars, made the headlines for so many reasons. Some liked it, some didn't, some called it propaganda. Be that as it may, I don't usually talk about movies. My field of interest is mostly about the relevance of our epics in our daily life. But even 2 weeks after watching the movie, I can't get some scenes out of my mind. One of the scenes is Hamza on the bridge after the 26/11 attacks. The image just won't leave me. That strong, beefy Dhurandhar with streaks of tears dried on his dusty face. Every time that image surfaces in my mind, I can't help thinking, what were the thoughts in his mind? And probably an analysis of that movie or that character that you haven't seen anywhere else or heard anywhere else. So stay with me till the end. Listen to what I have to say, and then maybe you will think a little differently too. So Hamza was an undercover agent, and his job description was that he has to infiltrate into the terrorist gangs across the border. And from there, he has to give intel about their plans so that our enforcement agencies can stop these attempts to chaos here. I hear that a prequel is going to be released in March 2026, and so maybe we will know a little more about Hamza, the man behind the person, then. I don't know how many of you saw the 26/11 attack live telecast. We did. And what I can remember is that feeling of sobs trapped in the chest, a feeling of helplessness. And it affects us badly even today. Now, we know that Hamza must have killed before, mercilessly. He was an active part of the gang, and he must surely have done many bad things. But he always had a justification, right? He knew that what he was doing was supposed to help our defense agencies to prevent the attacks. But this time he was seeing the attacks in real time. And the thing is, he recognized the person on TV, the real life Ajmal Kasab. He was the person to whom he had handed over the automatic weapon himself with his own hands. I'm sure his previous confidence must have been shattered. Instead of the intel helping his country, it was the weapons he himself had handed over that were causing the havoc. I believe some 180 people were killed that day, in those 2 days. Can you even imagine the depth of his emotions at that time? He was the one who had supplied the weapons, and those weapons were being used to kill his countrymen. He was living this horrible life, thinking that in doing so he was protecting them. And now he was the one who had given them the maut ka saman. In that scene, Hamza is standing trapped in a nightmare he had helped create. And as I watched him the second time when I watched the movie, I realized that I have seen this sort of emotion before, not in another movie, but in a 5,000-year-old epic. The thing is, Dhurandhars are the masters of their craft. They are the experts. But what happens when their weapons point to their own heart? We sometimes face that situation in our lives, don't we? We are sure that our goal is good, the goal is right. But once we act, sometimes the consequences are not what we expected. The result of our actions are suffered by somebody else, and we have to watch that suffering. That is the situation Hamza was in. And did he have the freedom to stop? No. He couldn't stop, because if he had stopped, the very gang people with whom he was now a trusted member, they would have finished him. And what would be the gain? No gain, because it would have meant that a new agent had to be trained, infiltrated, established, and in the meantime, the intel he had been giving would stop, which means that the terrorists would have had a free hand. So he could not stop. He just had to go on. Now, why am I comparing him to Arjun? Arjun wasn't a gangster. He wasn't a secret agent. He was on the side of Dharma. Remember Arjun on the battlefield? A well-trained Kshatriya who had fought and won many battles. He had killed before. Of course, wars mean that there is killing. But suddenly, on this battlefield, he suddenly lost his grip. He collapsed, shaking, ready to give up and become a monk. The feelings? Same, don't you think? My point is, both Hamza in Dhurandhar and Arjun in Mahabharata were trained to fight and kill, had killed before, but at that moment, ready to give up, wanting to give up. Arjun was even prepared to beg for alms and live on those alms rather than fight his own great-grandfather, his gurus, his cousins. Why? Because in his mind's eye, he could visualize that what was going to happen was that he would have to kill his own. He knew that he was capable of doing it because he had done it before. He is capable of decimating entire armies. And this time, when he does it, it would mean that he would be killing his own kith and kin. Hamza Ali, the Dhurandhar in Dhurandhar movie, sees the consequences of his actions. His intel failed and his own people killed. Arjun was lucky that he had Krishna. He had someone in whom he could confide and get advice. He had somebody who could guide him, pull him out of the horror of his vision. Now, there are times in our life when we know that certain actions are inevitable. There is no escaping them. But we also know that there is no guarantee that doing the right thing will definitely give us the right results. And maybe there are times when we know that those actions could be bordering on the wrong. We know it, but we can't stop. I'm sure such situations occur in the lives of people who come to a certain position of power. Arjun was definitely one of them, and so I feel was Hamza. But for them at that moment, it is ek taraf khai, dusri taraf kuan. Doomed if you do and doomed if you don't. The point is, and something that no one talks about, is the mental agony faced by both Arjun and Hamza. They are very similar. Arjun could foresee and couldn't handle that vision. Hamza saw the results on live TV and couldn't handle the celebrations around him. One was a tragedy of failure. The other was a tragedy of foresight. So the mental agony, I feel, would have been identical. Recently, I have recorded another video titled Arjun, Dhurandhar or Delulu, where I talk about the moment of his collapse on the battlefield just before the conches are about to be blown and the battle is about to begin. Now, I knew the meaning of Dhurandhar was a highly skilled person, an expert, a master, a leader in any particular field. And since Arjun was such an expert, the title felt appropriate and topical. But it was only after seeing the movie twice that this thought has been haunting me. What was Hamza feeling on the bridge? The feelings Arjun had when he realized that his own people were going to be killed in the battle, and most probably he was the one who was going to kill them. Wasn't that what Hamza would have felt at the bridge? The horror, the regret, the inevitability, the helplessness of being the instrument of this sort of destruction. Arjun was lucky. He was lucky that he had Krishna, an on-the-spot mentor, so to say, who could help him and guide him through his confusion. Hamza didn't have anyone. How did he cope? After the Kurukshetra war, Arjun was consumed with guilt, grief. Krishna's Upadesh, the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, it did free him from the pain of knowing that he had destroyed his own family, his own teachers. They won. Dharma was established. But inside, he felt broken. What about Hamza? Just as re-establishing Dharma was the bigger cause that made the war inevitable, Hamza's cause was bigger than his own feelings, wasn't it? Hamza's training told him that his actions, however violent, however gory, were necessary for the protection of millions, just as destroying adharma was necessary for Arjun's bigger cause. But the personal toll must have been unimaginably harsh. Both men reached that breaking point where right must have felt wrong, but they still kept going. My question is, and that is what haunts me, this terrifying question, what if they had just stopped? What if Arjun had walked away? Hamza had quit? The answer changes everything, and it changed the way I thought about morality. You might ask, if knowledge of Bhagavad Gita didn't stop Arjun from being broken afterwards, then what is its relevance today? Why am I talking about it? Doesn't it mean that without it, Arjun would have quit and wouldn't have had to live with guilt and pain? I say no. Bhagavad Gita is still relevant. Imagine if there had been no Gitopadesh. Arjun would have retired hurt, mentally hurt. What would have happened? Duryodhan, who was a cruel and decadent person, would have had absolute power. His cronies were no better. They would have ruled Bharatvarsh, untethered, unchecked, no one to put a lagam to their depravity. What would have happened? The Pandavas, especially Arjun, would have survived and would have lived to see how the consequences of Arjun running away would have affected millions of people. They would have seen the suffering, and they would have known, especially Arjun, that it is all because he quit. Would that pain, would that regret, would that guilt have been any lesser? Think about it. Can a Hamza quit because he cannot handle that one failure resulted in carnage? That trauma has affected us, and it still affects us even after 17 years. If that Hamza quits, wouldn't it do the same to him? If Arjun had quit, our itihas would have been different. Subjects mimic kings. If the king is good, the citizens become good. If the king is evil, the citizens learn to be evil. They stop having any sense of responsibility of right and wrong and have no hesitation in doing whatever the king is doing himself. And if Arjun had given up, it would have been Duryodhan who ruled, and probably we, the progeny from there, would have been like that. The greater good prevailed because Gitopadesh helped Arjun stick to the path of dharma. If a Hamza quits, terrorists get a free rein. because Intel stops. Arjun had a Krishna to explain him why. Hamza only had the cold silence of that desolated bridge. The reality is, both of them carry the weight of the necessary evil. For the larger good, certain actions are needed and have to be taken, even if the cost is personal peace of mind. Think about it. Hamza is not just a movie character. Arjun is not just an epic superhero, someone whom we look up to but have no hope of emulating. They are both characters that are mirrored in our times, that are mirrored in our lives from time to time. Believe me, in spite of all the gore, all the things that Hamza would have done wrong, we the people have a lot to thank him for. I don't know if Dhurandhar is the fictional version of one agent, maybe not. It's probably the story of many put together as one for cinematic reasons. Believe me, every country has spies and agents in their neighbors or enemy countries. I'm sure there are many in India today from other countries and many from India in other countries. I'm sure at some time or the other they would have been involved in dubious or even heinous activities. Just because the times are different, the situations are different, does the price these people pay in terms of emotions any different? Arjun or Hamza? The pain, the regret, the guilt? I don't think so. I hope you enjoyed this slightly different view of the movie and our hero from the epics. Do come back, because though this is a one-off, I will be doing the analysis and comparison of many of the juicy characters from the Mahabharata and Ramayana and showing you the parallels that are there even today. Namaskar.